To make a value scale, you're going to need a ruler and a pencil. You want to use the inches side of your ruler. And while you're going to start marking at the number 1, you want to add the 0 inch up with the side of your paper like that. And now what you're going to do is you're going to make a little mark above every little number. You're going to go down to the number 8. We're going to make a value scale of 7 squares, but you still just want 8 squares, and you'll see why in a second. I'm using the width of my ruler. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line across the top and the bottom just like you saw. Now I'm going to slide my ruler down. I want to make sure that the 0 is still lined up with the edge of the paper, like so. I'm going to go ahead and make those marks again to the number 8. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to turn it vertically like this. And I'm going to line up the top and bottom notches together. And I'm going to make a vertical line straight down. I'm going to do this all the way across. Now I have 8 squares, but I'm going to start numbering, not from the first one on the left, from the second one right there. I'm going to start numbering 1 through 7. So I have a total of 7 squares. All of these shades on the left side are my shades. All of the squares on the right are my tints. The shades are going to represent the shadows when I draw, and the tints are going to represent the highlights when I draw, or the lighter areas of my object. Now I'm going to start shading in number 1. This is going to be my darkest value. And I'm going to use my pencil to do this. And I'm not going to start by pressing really, really hard in there to get a black value. Instead, I'm going to press firmly with the side of my pencil. I'm going to also kind of shade in like an upward circular motion. But I am going to press enough to where it's a dark, dark gray, but not as hard as I can just yet. I want to build my values up slowly. So I'm going to fill in this entire square here. And now I'm going to move on to my second value, which is going to be a little bit lighter. Try to make it as smooth as possible. Here I go. I like to work in this kind of circular motion because I can try to get a smooth value. Sometimes I have to turn my page a little bit. I'm going to go in and fill some of those areas that are a little blotchy just to try to get it as smooth as possible. Now I'm going to move on to a lighter value, so I'm using less pressure. Every time I move up, I use less pressure on the pencil to get a lighter value, because I can always go back in and make my values darker, which is what I'm going to have to do. So I've got these 3 done. They're looking a little similar, so I'm going to go back into this first one just a little bit and darken it up just a tad. I can already tell it was just a little bit too light. So now I can see a good difference. Now I'm going to start working on the 4. Again, less pressure on the pencil. Filling it in as even as I can. Move over to the 5. Sorry, it's a little cropped there on the right-hand side. Lighter pressure on the pencil, even lighter. Something that helps is to hold my fingers closer to the eraser portion of my pencil than the lead side of my pencil. I'm working on 6, again, lighter value. These are all looking very similar, so I know I'm going to have to go back in and darken some of those values. It looks pretty good, but the 4, 5, and 6s are pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and go back down to number 1 and just darken that up all over just another time again. Not pressing too hard, just adding a nice firm layer. Going in here and doing this to number 2. It's a slight layer, very, very light, but yet it still darkens it up to where I can see a good difference between the first value and the second value. Doing the same thing here with my value number 3. Notice how my value number 3 and my number 2, when they touch each other, they are kind of similar. So I'm going to go in and just darken the side of the number 2 just a little bit so I can see a difference. Now I'm going to go in and maybe make the 4 value a little bit darker, so I'm just adding a very light layer of graphite. Go back and make the side of that 3 just a little bit darker as well. There we go. Now I can see a difference. And the same thing here with the 5, because the 5 and the 6 were really, really similar. So the way that I'm going to tell if I have a good difference is by covering up 2 squares at a time. So I've got a little bit of a shadow. It's kind of hard for me. There we go. Just, well, you can kind of see it a little bit. Cover up the 2 and the 3. There you go. You can see some difference there. The 3 and the 4, there's some difference. The 4 and the 5, there's a little bit of difference. And the 5 and the 6, there's a little bit of difference. And of course, I didn't put anything in the 7. And that's how you do it.